My name's Dr. Brian Kaplan. I'm a medical doctor specializing in provocative therapy, the cutting edge in the use of humor and reverse psychology in psychotherapy. I want to tell you the story of how provocative therapy was discovered. It all started in America, in Madison, Wisconsin. One day, a man called Frank Farrelly, a psychiatric social worker working at Mendota State Institute in Madison, Wisconsin, began his 91st interview with a patient. Now you may think 91 interviews, 91 consultations, that's a lot, but not if this is an inpatient institution. The patient was a paranoid schizophrenic who was an inpatient of Mendota State Institute, and Frank Farrelly saw him for an hour every day. Only one problem: the 90 interviews had produced no result whatsoever. Farrelly was using client-centered therapy or counseling, good stuff, but it wasn't working on this paranoid schizophrenic. The schizophrenic man continued to say that his situation was hopeless, that he would never get out of Mendota State Institute, that he would never get off medication, and that he would never be able to live a normal life ever again. Frank Farrelly tried to show him that he had opportunities in his life, but nothing worked. But on this day, the 91st interview, something changed. Farrelly, for no reason that he can remember, spontaneously introduced a new concept into what he was doing. The man went on saying how hopeless his situation was, and Farrelly looked at him right in the eye and said to him, "You know what? I agree with you. There is no solution to your problem." The man immediately looked more animated. He looked a little shocked. The one thing apparently that he really didn't want to hear was his psychotherapist agreeing with him about how poor his prognosis was. He said, "What do you mean?" Frank Farrelly saw this animation. He said, "Well, I've sat with you for 90 consultations, and I've tried everything that I know, and I've thought about your case, and I've been supervised on your case, and yet I've come up with nothing. I now finally agree with you that your prognosis is hopeless and there is no solution to your problem." And the patient, not realizing even that Frank Farrelly was joking or exaggerating, said, "But there has to be a solution." "Well, I have not been able to find one," and that's the end of the consultation today. Farrelly went home on a high. He knew he'd found something because he'd seen the animation in the patient's face and his attitude. Something had changed in the energy of the patient. So he persisted. He persisted with his negative approach, apparently contrarian, apparently paradoxical, but in his heart there was tremendous affection to the patient, and in his eyes there was always a twinkle. So the patient sensed that viscerally Farrelly was on his side, but the words that came out of Farrelly's mouth were things like, "Nothing can be done. There is no solution to your problem." Anyway, the end of this story is that 6 weeks later, this inpatient paranoid schizophrenic was discharged from the unit and was taken off medication and lived a normal life after that. Farrelly went on to develop provocative therapy and teach provocative therapy all over the world and establish himself as a superb and gifted and very funny psychotherapist. He blended comedy and psychotherapy in a way that had never ever been done before. Then 4 or 5 years later, after this patient had been discharged, Farrelly went to a restaurant with his wife in Madison, and lo and behold, the owner of this new restaurant that Farrelly hadn't visited was the patient. And the patient greeted him, "Oh, Mr. Farrelly, I'm so happy to see you. I always hoped that I'll get another chance to see you. And please have this meal on me. Please have the meal on me. There will be no charge." He says, "Please have this meal on me." And Farrelly is a big Falstaffian character with a big stomach and a very deep voice, said to him, "And damn right it should be after everything that I had done for you." Anyway, that's the story of provocative therapy and how this marvelous technique was introduced to the world by the man, Frank Farrelly. Thank you.